Hello and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell. I
This is
wasn't calm
your
enough.
No, you don't think so?
I need you to do it better. I was like, wait a second, I just announced that. I need you.
Wait.
Hello.
Take two.
Hello and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
I just launched it right before we hopped on. I was talking to Chris about like there's someone chipping wood, like the whole tree crew is like surrounding my house right now, doing stuff in the forest. It's like right next, so it's like a loud wood chipper noise. So as soon as I popped on, I was like, hello. uh,
Calm is a choice.
Oh, it was a choice. So I'm glad
Oh
I fixed
God.
it. I am
Yeah.
naturally calm now, right?
You're amazing as always. But I feel like calm is a choice is going to be something we have to repeat to ourselves frequently over the next 2 weeks,
Right.
especially with how everything's already going. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whew. Um,
Woohoo.
Yeah, just like that.
Woohoo.
I was watching the headlines over the weekend, as I do, especially when something big astrological is coming up. Um, and last week the headlines reported that the Speaker of the House in the US was removed. And I was like, well, that's a thing. That's another unprecedented first whatever thing. And it's like we're all kind of
Yeah.
numb to that right now. So I try
Yeah,
to
whatever.
remember to be like affected and to at least be in awe of the times or something. I don't know. I just want to feel something, I guess. Anyway.
I
Um, so
have to remind myself to feel something.
no, but so I'm like, okay, writing that down. What's going on? And it was Mars on the South Node. And I remember reading, and I've been looking to find this again. And I would love to quote the source text. And hopefully tomorrow, when I do my eclipse video for my YouTube, I will have found the source text. But
Mm-hmm.
don't quote me on that because I can't find it right now. But I found this one text last week or the week before when I was doing another live on the eclipses that mentioned that when Mars hits the South Node, it activates what the solar eclipse is doing. Now that's kind of a unique scenario to happen, and I have
Mm-hmm.
questions about it as a studious astrologer. It's like whenever Mars hits the South Node, like does it just say, "Hey, remember," even though maybe we're not on the exact eclipse, that something the eclipse is doing is happening? But this time it did happen just a week and a half before the eclipse. So Mars hit the South Node, and that was right around the day that the House um, removed the speaker. And I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's attributed to that, but this may be something that carries into our eclipse scenario, which makes a ton
Yeah.
of sense for the eclipse happening in Libra, where the sun is in fall and hosted, if you will, or ruled by Venus, who is in Virgo, which is her fall. So
Mm-hmm.
the dismantling, so to speak, dissolving and kind of just like losing of structure. Like it's like when you have a cake and it just falls apart. And yes, I've been watching baking shows again, and that has happened. But it reminds me of that. Like it just loses its structure, so it can't hold itself together because it doesn't have what it needs at the time. And that is putting it so lightly for how the rest of the weekend unfolded as Mars went from the South Node to square Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
So the stuff that we were seeing in the headlines over the weekend, multiple earthquakes, war breaking out in parts of the world that I am sending all of my love to and some of my donations. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to remember that like this is happening in humanity as much as it's happening in astrology.
Yeah.
Like one of the challenges of being an astrologer, they have this thing we call hashtag astrology good. When something
Mm-hmm.
that is arguably terrible happens perfectly in alignment with an astrological transit. So it's like impressive scientifically, but also there's humans affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to take a moment for anybody that's experiencing a lot of astrologers right now only talking about the astrology of this. There I have feelings about that one. I do feel
Mm-hmm.
something when it comes to that. And I hope that everybody is staying safe, is taking care of themselves, and is being gentle with themselves. And I hope that your families are all doing well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The visual I got is Venus like karate kicking a thing of dominoes that just like
Yeah.
structure just so we
Yeah.
still like the dominoes don't explode. They fall down in the pattern that they were laid out to, but they're no
Mm-hmm.
longer standing. That's the vibe.
Well, it's a very reap what you sow vibe
Yeah.
in that sense. It's like,
Yeah.
one of the things that when I was working with Marianne Williamson during 2020. It was a little controversial to hear in the moment, but it seems like worth bringing up for us to contemplate now. She said, we created the world in which this is inevitable. And that's kind of setting up the dominoes. And then when they
Yeah.
fall, we're just like, surprise Pikachu. And it's interesting to think about that. And I'm not saying we as in like you, the listener in your kitchen, you did this, but the world that we live in has taken actions through society and intrapersonal situations that are not always in our individual control. So I don't want you to go feeling bad about yourself. But it is a world that, these things are what can manifest with what is available. And so it's just like, I don't know necessarily what to do with that. I'm not saying I have answers, but it's something that's been interesting to think about, and to think about like, well, what can we make inevitable next that's better?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, this was something that kind of went around, I think maybe 2021. This was like kind of a big topic of discussion online. But the notion that like we have been kind of gaslit into thinking that global warming is our fault, and like that we need to recycle more and we need to do this, this, and this. And really it's no, we need regulations on the corporations that are making plastic yogurt containers that are not recyclable. Like that's not our fault. I mean, sure, recycle, do what you can when you can, but it's kind of the same idea of like, this is not a structure you built. This is a structure that was built by people before us to give us an energy of not sustainability where things are going to crumble down. It's that sort of
Well,
bit that's coming in.
I used to work in medical billing with my mom. And so when we would go to a client and she would explain how she was going to change their whole system, she would talk about volume reports. And the idea was a client is working on something one task at a time. And if they have 10 tasks coming in and they achieve 10 tasks a day, that means 10 tasks go out. Cool, we have equilibrium. But if they can only do 10 tasks a day and you start giving them 20, you're going to have a 10 task, deficit going on, because they can only do this much and they're being inundated with more and more and more. And so it's like, if you as an individual are capable of making impactful and important drops of change in the bucket, but someone else is pouring an entire bucket in there to like mingle with that, it's going to take more individuals to sort of reach that equilibrium or change the tide.
Yeah. Yeah. It just is.
Yeah.
And just different structure. Maybe you just need a bigger bucket.
Yeah.
Like
or maybe we need to get the person who's
structure.
pouring a bucket of water into our bucket out of this picture, and like maybe tell them to start only pouring in a drop. You say matters, but the weight of it should be a little bit more equal.
Yeah. So anyway, that is what happened this past bit. We're going to talk about what's coming our way with the solar eclipse. But first, we have a cool announcement.
Let's talk about something fun that we actually can do that will make a big difference on an individual level, that will give you hope and connection and community and experience and spiritual depth. If those are the things that you feel like will make you feel better about, as we're waiting for the world to sort out in a way, we've got an idea.
Yeah. So by now you may or may not have seen this announcement, but when you hear this episode, the tickets will be live. They are going live on Thursday, but our next Ancient Wisdom retreat is happening in Japan. Oh my gosh, we're so excited. Like both of us have been so eager to go to Japan since we started doing these retreats. Because of the energy there, because of the spiritual, cultural differences there, because of the amount of change and activation that happens when you travel there, and also because it's a hard place to go if you're a solo traveler. So that's the other benefit of doing this like as a spiritual group of like intuitive weirdos. Like we all get to go together, and if you are a solo traveler, or if you aren't usually wouldn't feel comfortable but you've always wanted to go, that's also why we're going, is so that you can go with an intuitive group that becomes, in Malcolm's words, a family. You start as strangers and you leave as family. But truly you do. And so you get to go with these people that will see you and honor you and do the things you want to do with you. So we're all together, going through a really, really unique and very culturally honoring experience. We do our very, very best to make sure that we are not the type of tourists that go and use the culture. We're the type of tourists that go and honor and respect the culture and also gain our own transformation through that, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, we're going to experience something outside of ourselves and outside of our lens of experience to broaden your understanding, to deepen your connection. And I think, honestly, as we talk about the lack of control in the world right now, travel is the thing that helps me the most with that. Like, I'm so grateful that
Yeah.
we've been able to do these trips and that we've been able to take people on these trips, because getting out of the bubble that we
Hmm.
currently live in, wherever you are in the world, but specifically in the United States right now,
Yeah,
at least from my experience lens,
very
getting
much.
out of there and being able to breathe and being able to see
Hmm.
things differently really does rejuvenate you and
Yeah.
reminds you of perspective, and gives you something more to work with that you can take back with you.
Hmm. And this is not a writing retreat. This is just us going
Yep.
together to spiritually experience. So don't feel like you're disqualified if you're not writing something or something. You're like, not at all. This is just us going. Um,
Yep.
and it's going to be really cool to go and get to experience like this very, like, if you aren't well versed in like the Eastern perspective of life, it is very, very different than the Western perspective. And it's
Hmm.
really needed this time to kind of break out of our bubble in a lot of ways. Plus, we're going to multiple different shrines. We're going to go and actually like go to these ancient, beautiful shrines, and honor and respect there and see what messages the spirits have for us from those places. Plus, we're doing a lot of food tour type stuff. We're going to go
Hmm.
and experience the culture through food. So we have like a sacred tea ceremony. We're going to learn how to make sushi, and we're going to
Sushi.
do like we're going to do a bunch of different cool stuff that way too. And we actually start in Tokyo, and then we go to Kyoto, and then we go to Osaka. So we're going to like some of the major places. And the coolest thing about this tour is, as opposed to I was talking to one of our former clients actually about this the other day, but it's not a vacation, it's traveling. And I think a lot of tour groups do it like it's a vacation and we just take care of everything
Yeah.
for you and blah, blah, blah. Our tour group does take care of everything for you
Hmm.
for sure, but it's with the idea that we're traveling, we're immersing ourselves and we're getting a better understanding. It's not to go to suit your needs, it's go because you need to go.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you get accommodations. We get so many things planned out for us, so many experiences set up. Like, it's an
Mhm.
amazing trip.
It's
So
so
much
cool.
that you don't have to worry about, between
Yeah.
travel, accommodations, food for the most part, and, just different experiences. And we always have a guide from that location. And every time we've worked with Trova and done these trips, that guide is just a friend the entire
Hmm.
time, and they'll
Hmm.
work with you. They're so respectful of dietary preferences, they're so
Yeah.
respectful of different relationships that people have, of all of those things. Emily and I, hold safe space for everything that is, anything that is important
Yeah.
to the people on the trip, so you can feel safe with us regardless of what's going on. We've got you covered. Like,
Absolutely.
I'll go to the ropes if I have to, but the idea is um that this is a trip that you can feel safe on, that you can branch out on, and you can feel so safe that you can actually grow.
Exactly. And we do our very, very best to make it incredibly reasonable. So with this trip, to talk more, like, it sounds amazing. It's 7 days long. It's really, really cool. All of with the trip package, like all of your accommodations are covered, most transportation is covered, at least a
Mhm.
meal a day is covered, all of the excursions. And we do it, honestly, I've never seen a trip package as reasonable as the way that we
Yeah.
do it. And there's tons of different payment plans available. And for example, if you're to do the 18-month payment plan, like right now, you only have to put like $250 down.
Mhm.
That's it. And then you pay it off in the 18 months.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like incredibly reasonable. And Trova Trip, the company we work with, also now has travel insurance as well. So if you want to be like extra secure, you can also do that. But there's also like 6 month payment plans, 12-month payment plans. I mean, like there's a whole variety. I think if you do the shortest payment plan, it's like 1,000 down right now. The total is like 4,200 or for the early bird and 4,300 or something like that. I forget. I have to look at the
Yeah.
actual numbers, or 44 and 45. I don't know. But you can look at it, and it's as reasonable as we can literally make
Mhm.
Japan to be, especially with the amount of stuff that we do. I will also
Yeah.
say this is not a super high activity one, meaning you don't have to have like a lot of physical stuff. Like you want to be
Prowess.
able to
Yeah.
walk. Yeah, you want to be able to walk a good amount of places, but it's not something that's you need to be able to hike up a mountain. So if you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I don't know if I can do a bunch of the physical things, whatever, you don't have to stress too hard on that with
Mhm.
this. It's a lot easier than
Yeah.
some of the other ones we've done.
The other thing to keep in mind is that we are going to be in a different culture. And so,
Mhm.
norms of that culture may not be norms that we are used to. For example, a lot of our transportation will not be in a private bus because we
Mm-mm.
are in Japan. It will be by
Yeah.
train, perhaps by metro, perhaps by walking. So be prepared for those environments. You're going there, as you said, traveling. And
Hmm.
that's part of the beauty of it. And that's part of something that we're excited about.
So
Um,
excited.
I can't wait. I've been to, we did our honeymoon in Tokyo, but we didn't get to really go outside of Tokyo. And we had to navigate everything with very little understanding of language. And people were so kind to us. They showed us how to do everything, even though it was just the two of us being totally lost. I've never felt safer in the entire world than I did there,
Oh, that's
which
amazing.
is shocking. Yeah, it's a city, but it doesn't feel like one. And the shrines are just peaceful.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to go back.
I'm so excited to go to the shrines too. Like one of the ones that we're going to visit has like these three sacred streams, and you're allowed to pick which one you want to drink out of, and it like gives you this deep blessing. And I'm just so
Mhm.
excited for like these like getting to go experience that and having read so much about their culture and a lot of
Mhm.
books about their and we'll have a reading list if you send it for the trip. We'll have a
Yep.
reading list that you can immerse yourself in as well. But it will be deeply life changing and really spiritually activating for everyone who goes. And I am so excited for the group that's going. That being said, we don't have a whole ton of spots. I think we're only at I think we only have 20
I think we
spots
only
for
have
this one.
20. Yeah. And
2022.
we have a minimum of 10. Usually it's 8, but it
Yeah.
was more feasible to make it a
Hmm.
minimum of 10 on this one.
Yeah.
So once 10 people are in, the trip is a go. But
Yeah.
there will only be enough spaces for 20.
Yeah. So the first 10 get early bird spots,
Hmm.
which means it's a discount. So by all means, please and take advantage of that when you're listening to this. I don't know if there'll be still bird spots or not. So go ahead and check
Yeah.
it out. But hopefully there'll still be spots for you in general. But
Hmm.
yeah, it is limited. So you want to lock yourself in
Yeah.
as kind of as soon as possible. And I will say from experience, most of our trips end up with waiting lists. And
Hmm.
those waiting lists do work. So by all means, if it sells out, like put yourself on the waiting
Yeah.
list. But just know
But
it's
if
yeah.
you're on the Egypt waiting list, that is quite a substantial waiting list right now. So if you're thinking maybe this is a good trip, I would feel safe if I were you to be able to jump onto this one if this one feels aligned with for you as well.
Yeah. I will say the Egypt, we will probably do Egypt again in the future.
Yeah.
I don't know when though, so I can't confirm that with you. But what I will say is if this trip speaks to you and you're on the Egypt waiting list, I would genuinely recommend you jump over there because the waiting list
Hmm.
is very extensive and the trip is very, very sold out. And we're getting very close to going, and there's not going to be a lot of shifting. I don't think too much more shifting anyway
Hmm.
on that list. So
Yeah.
just keeping that in mind. But yeah, I'm so excited. We're also like, oh, it's gonna be so cool. So excited um for this trip. So anyway, please come.
Yeah.
Please come on this trip with us. We are so incredibly stoked to get to offer this
Hmm.
and to get to go experience this with you all. It's honestly going to be amazing. It's going to
It's
be
going to
so
be beautiful. I
hmm
can't think of a better way to round out a summer than to spend
yeah.
it there. The energy is just it's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, it's next summer. It's the last week of July, first week of August. I don't know if I said the
Mhm.
actual dates, so I
Yeah,
wanted to make
July
sure I said that.
26th through August
Yes.
2nd, I believe.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah, that's what we're doing. And if you go, we'll put uh, on either of our social media bios, you can just click the link and it'll take you to the trip page. Trip page also has the itinerary. So if you want to
Mhm.
look and be like, oh, what are we doing? What exactly is it? Blah, blah, blah. Go for it and look. I will also say too, the cool thing with airlines right now, if you're like, the flights are going to be so expensive, a lot of airlines actually offer payment plans at this point too for your flights, which is pretty cool. And we are so far out, which is why we're announcing this almost a year in advance,
Yeah, we did
is
that on
truly
purpose.
so that you can book everything as soon as possible so that you have the best possible rates on you name it. So this
Mhm.
was also very intentional on our part.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing everything we can to make it something that you can feel good about from the beginning to, coming home.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our
Yeah.
super long infomercial about what we're really excited to go on.
Yeah. Well, and that
Uh,
was a good light note because
yeah.
now because now we're going to talk a little bit about the eclipse. Um
Yeah.
yeah,
So the solar eclipse is this Saturday. It's Saturday, right? 14th?
Saturday the
14th is Saturday.
14th.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, wait a
Mhm.
second. I said Saturday. I knew what date it was, but I was like, what day of the week is that?
Yeah.
But the solar eclipse is Saturday the 14th. It is visible over a big chunk of the western US. I will get a
Mhm.
partial eclipse where I'm at.
Yeah.
which is kind of nifty.
Yeah.
I Yeah, it's going to be really neat. So if there are tons of maps out there by NASA, you name it, where you can
Mhm.
actually see like, oh, what's it going to look like? Get your eclipse glasses though, because don't look right at it, please.
Don't ever look at the sun, even when it's blocked by the moon. Just don't do it.
Just dropped a whole tree into a trailer and it went like boom. And I was like, oh no. I hope you guys didn't hear that. It was so
We did not. I mean,
okay.
I'm good. I'm good.
It
Um,
punctuated your statement really perfectly, Emily said.
do not look at the sun. Boom.
Boom. It's like mic
Emphasis.
drop. But don't look at the sun. That being said, it's if you can, a couple of years ago, the last time the solar eclipse was fully visible over the
Mhm.
US, we actually went camping and we went up to the Oregon, California border and we're able to like watch the whole thing. And it's a really cool experience if you can do that.
Yeah.
Like energetically, spiritually, physically. It's just a really neat thing to experience. So if you
Mhm.
can do that, I do highly recommend it because it was honestly transformative for me anyway to just get to witness that and be like, oh, we're so cool. We get to exist on this
Yeah.
planet and see this kind of stuff.
Yep.
Like that's neat.
Yeah. And, some people have asked, rightfully so. Thank you for asking. You are very wise to be considering this. Is it safe to stand under the energy of an eclipse?
Oh.
In a lot of astrological magical circles, or even just folk magic circles, especially a lunar eclipse, if you go outside, they'll say you're standing under baleful rays.
Mm,
It's basically that you're witnessing energy that should not be used. I'm not saying you can't be standing out there and observing it safely.
hmm.
I would not do magic with it.
No.
That's my personal like caveat. Picatrix says don't do it.
Hmm.
Like it's just like a maybe we don't do it today kind of energy. Um, and
Yeah.
these next 2 weeks are a bit wonky for that kind of stuff. Let stuff come to you because what you're getting right now is inspiration for what you
Hmm.
should be consciously working with, performing your magic with, or manifesting, however you consider that practice. But this is the time where it's like, okay, what's the game plan? I'm
Hmm.
remembering that I am a piece of a cosmos and that I'm a member of this, cosmic team or this collective consciousness or however you want to see it. And so I need to get an understanding of where we are because the world is changing and I'm a part of that. So I need to know basically what scenery am I working with for this next scene.
Yeah. And I mean, I stand under the energy of every eclipse ever. We'll just say that. Like I never stay inside
Mhm.
for eclipse events, whether that is a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse. Like if I can
Yeah.
see it, if it's going to be over me, I will be out there looking at it.
Yep.
I don't care what time of day or night it is, I
Yep.
will. Because it's super important to me to witness it.
Hmm.
So if you're feeling like, oh, I really want to see it, but is it going to be just go outside and see it then? Like you're
Yeah.
witnessing being a person. That is what you're
Yep.
witnessing and letting
Yeah.
the universe do things for you. And it's like a physical representation that the universe is working for you. Like the fact that
Hmm.
the earth and the sun have the same like shape and size that they could block each other out is really, or not the earth, the
The
moon and the
moon
sun.
and the sun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have the same like relative magnitude. It's really incredible.
Yeah.
Like it's really, really incredible. And so I highly recommend going out and looking at it. You'll be fine. I mean,
Hmm.
if you feel uncomfortable, go back inside. But like clear
Yep.
ground and shield, honestly, it's worth it. It's so
Hmm.
neat. I don't recommend doing magic with it either. Again, we talked about cows last time. You don't want to get hit in the face with a cow you didn't want. But it's still something where you can be like, wow, like this is an impactful, neat experience to get to have. And it's special. It's truly
Hmm.
special. And solar eclipses often, in my opinion, in a very personal life thing, looking at the energy, solar eclipses are usually the start of something in a lot of ways, where lunar eclipses tend to signify the end of something in a lot of ways. For a lot of people that I've worked with and looking at the energy of that, I'm like, okay, that tends to just kind of be the trend that happens,
Hmm.
which is cool. And you might not know what is starting, and it might be like a happy little ready, set, go. It might be like, hey, look at that. I just completely kicked down your tower of blocks.
Hmm.
But it's still a start. Like it's still like an initiating whack. Like an initiating thing. I just sneezed my hand. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Uh, but it's still like an initiating event, and I think that's really
Hmm.
cool. So
Yeah.
that's all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
I mean,
stand under it.
it
Just don't
is,
look at it.
it is definitely, it's the first solar eclipse we'll have in Libra. It's the last lunar eclipse we'll have in Taurus. So this one, especially as far as beginnings and endings go, there's a lot of debate on, the sun will be near the south node at this point. The moon will be near the north node, increase, decrease. I'll talk about that more on my like astrology focused video tomorrow on the eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
But we are opening a chapter, and this
Mm-hmm.
really is something that is going to initiate something likely in forms of leadership and governance and
Yeah.
the kingliness that will continue for the next 2.5 years. If you look into what Ptolemy would say about how long an eclipse's effects last or when you can expect them to show up, Ptolemy actually mentions that it is the I think he called it the social time as compared to planetary hours. You're using 60-minute
Mm-hmm.
hours. The duration of the eclipse in social hours gives you the duration of the eclipse's effects. For a solar eclipse, it's in years. For a lunar eclipse, it's in months. It takes the sun a whole year to go around the zodiac, the moon a whole month to go around the zodiac. That's where we get that from. So this solar eclipse lasting 2.5 hours is going to give us 2.5 years of material to witness.
Mm-hmm. Yay.
Yay. And it could be really great, right? Like
Yeah.
this is definitely depends on your chart, depends on your situation kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like where is Libra for you? What's near the 21st degree of Libra for you? I know. If something is affected at 21 degrees and even 7 minutes of Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, or Aries, if there's something in your chart that's there, you may notice this more prominently than other people in a magnified great or in a magnified challenging way. It could be either thing, depending on the disposition or whoever it's interacting with. It is very
Mm-hmm.
personal. And even if it's challenging, it's not to say you can't overcome it. It's just something that you're growing with. I
Yeah.
just came out of, eclipses hitting my ascendant and moon and opposing my sun or hitting my sun for the last 2 years. So I'm with you. I get it. I've been there. And it's not always easy, but I will tell you, I feel super strong and awesome for what I've come through. I'm not excited to do it again, but I am proud of myself for doing it.
Yeah. And my Libra is my rising sign, and I'm actually really stoked, to be totally honest. And I might change my tune as this happens, but truly stoked. I think it's gonna be really cool. I think
Well,
it's gonna
and
be a really cool event, and I think it's gonna change a lot of stuff. And I hate stagnancy more than anything, and
exactly.
I need the change. So I'm like, all right, what's changing? It's going to be in my highest and best because I decided it was going to be in my highest and best, and I trust
Mhm.
that things happen for me, not to me. So like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, honestly, just having action
Yeah.
is really exciting. And then when it's over, you get to rest for a while, then you get bored, then you're ready for action again, and action arrives. So, I'm coming out of my action sequence, you're coming into yours, and I can support you through that, and it'll be great. I truly believe that. It sounds facetious. I'm not trying to be facetious.
No, I
I'm
know
being
you're not.
genuine.
It's just so funny. It's like, yay, action sequence.
Yeah.
Like, didn't I just get out of my Saturn return? Like, god
Uh-huh.
damn.
It's great, isn't it? It's great. Yeah. I had someone ask me
No,
this
I'm
morning, like,
ready.
what transit are you excited to have finished? And I'm like, for the last 4 years, I've been attributing this hard thing to a transit. And when it's over, it'll be good again. And then this hard transit comes up. And it's been just one after another, after another, after another. I think I'm finally entering like a calmer phase because
Yeah.
again, the fixed angles have been getting a lot of attention lately.
Yeah.
But some of that is beginning to wane. They say as they look at the chart and pray. But yeah, so it's everything comes in its cycles and its seasons.
Yeah. And I will say again, like pay attention to the spiritual pings you get, even though you're not supposed to do like deep magic work and stuff with this energy. If you want to pull a card, sure, that's not deep
Mhm.
magic. That's you getting advice. Like pull some cards, use pendulum, talk to your guides, whatever. If you get pings, ideas, aha, inspiration, understanding about something, just like either pay attention to them, note it down in some way, do something to acknowledge the fact that you're receiving this. Because if you're receiving it underneath the energy of this eclipse, it's important in some way. Even if it's just an idea to make way for another idea, that's fine. But it's something that's coming up that you need to take note of and honor and basically show up with. So
Mhm.
that would be my number one recommendation. If you're like, but what can I do? You can drink water, you can relax, and you can talk to your guides. That's what you can
Mhm.
do.
And you can pull cards. And like also if you feel so much pressure that you're like, what can I do? We need to work on a detachment anyway. So you
Yeah.
need to give yourself the question of what would I do if I didn't have to do anything?
Well, yeah, and it usually is a trust block too. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is the time of year, the eclipse season during the eclipses, it's a well, trust the universe to do what it needs to do for me.
Yep.
And that is hard for us who are like,
Yeah.
but I have magic and I can influence the world. You totally can. And you do. And you have. Now the universe is working because of the stuff you've already done
Mm-hmm.
and the stuff you're going to do.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have to do something right now, but that level of trust is sometimes very, very challenging. So
Mm-hmm.
I would look at those kinds of blocks too.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
Oh, awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah. Then the lunar eclipse comes in later this month, which of course we'll talk about. So obviously
Yep.
right now we're just focusing on kind of a solar eclipse energy. It is not a good time to do crystal clearing or cleansing or activating.
Don't put your crystals under the baleful rays.
No, don't baleful your crystals. I mean, what I will say is if you do want to, I might even take some of my crystals down that are in my windows, actually, now
Mm.
that you said that. It's just like, oh, or I'll put them in front of the curtains. That'll probably be fine. Um, so they at least have a little bit of shield there. If you wanted to do water, you could do it, but be really intentional about why the heck you're capturing this eclipse energy with the
Yeah.
water. Like,
Don't drink it.
no,
Honestly, the most I would do with eclipse water is put it down the sink or the toilet. Like,
yeah. I mean, that was kind of charging your house a little bit, but yeah,
well, I
I mean,
mean, you might unplug a clog.
yeah.
Sheesh.
You could totally unplug a clog. I know that
I
some people do use eclipse water for different spells, etc., usually in the more baneful magic sort of way,
Mhm.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
be
mean,
really conscientious.
if you're working malefic magic or magic
Hmm.
for typically malefic intentions, the most malefic I've ever witnessed and I have not practiced was like a pest begone charm spell that
Hmm.
would like, the pests will go away because they won't be alive anymore. Um,
Hmm.
I think that there are other things you can do. And if it's something that can't wait, I still don't think eclipse water is your best solution. I think you could probably
Hmm.
find something that'll give you more. But that's my opinion. And I just like to make sure that for the people who are listening, we're encouraging the safest practices.
Yeah, I agree. But
Mhm.
just if you're feeling called to it, I'm not going to tell you not to
Yeah.
follow that calling.
Yeah. If you're
Just know what you're
feeling
getting
called to it,
into.
I'd be interested in the comments or something. Let us know what you're up to. I'm not guaranteeing we'll respond because I don't want to get in the way of your freedom to act. But it would be
Yeah,
curious to be able to just understand.
yeah, absolutely. Fully agree. Cool. Was there anything else you want to bring up on this call? Anything else that's coming up transit
Um,
wise? Anything else we need to
I
chit
mean,
chat
if you're
about?
someone who is, we're not writing in Japan necessarily, but if you do feel like you've got a book in you, we are
Oh
still
yeah.
recruiting and bringing people in for Forgotten Storytellers.
Yes, we are.
That's something you
Um,
can do during eclipse season.
yeah, right. No, honestly, we're so excited about this cohort too, because it's gonna be really,
they're
really
uh,
cool.
they're wonderful people. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, wonderful people joining already, which is pretty neat. But yeah, we do have some spots open for that still. And if you just have an idea for a fiction book, please like send us your pitch and just give it a shot and see how it goes. Because honestly, I'm really proud of what the program does for people, but I'm also
Hmm.
really proud of what the people do in the program.
Yeah.
And to give anybody that experience of getting to transform through the act of writing a book, it's one of the coolest things I've ever done. So,
Well, and we get close with them. Like
mhm,
we just had our recent retreat, and every time we have that retreat, it's like this group of friends. And if you're someone
mhm.
who never really had that feeling of inclusion growing up, this is what that feels like. And it's
Yeah. Yeah. And it's friends you'll have forever. Like we have some forgotten storytellers that like are roommates now. Like truly, truly close friendships. I just went thrifting with one of our forgotten storyteller
mm-hmm.
clients that did the program with us last year and she lives close. And so we just went down and thrifted together. Like
Yeah.
it's a really cool bonding, immersive program. So we would love to hear from you. Also, if you did pitch us and you don't think you've gotten an email from us,
Yeah.
please check your spam. Please check your spam because we have responded yay or nay to every single pitch that has come through at this point in time, and we're not getting some responses back, and we're thinking that it's a spam thing. So
Mhm.
just so you know, if you've pitched us and you're like, wow, why haven't they gotten back to us? We have. Go ahead and check your spam and see what's going on, because I promise we've done our best, and I don't know what's going on tech wise. So there's that too.
Yeah, if you search your spam for forgotten storytellers, it should come up.
Yeah.
So you should be all set. But yeah, we want to make sure that everybody has, if you're supposed to be in this program, we want to make sure you are in it.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And we get to talk to you. We get to hear about your book, and it's fun, and we love it. So yeah, if you want to participate in the Forgotten Storytellers, you can go to forgottenstorytellers.com and submit your pitch. It's very
There's a
simple.
button there. You just fill out a form. It's not intimidating whatsoever.
No.
And then we will get to read it and we will respond to it.
And if you're like, but I don't know what I'm doing with it, this is just an idea. Perfect. Perfect. That's what we're looking for.
We can usually feel where it's going by the energy of
Yeah.
it. So if you believe in it and you feel it there, we'll feel it out and see if it's something that we can nurture. And if we say no, it's usually because we're not the best people to help nurture it.
Yeah,
We make
it's not
sure
that the
that we
idea is
feel like
bad.
we
It's
can
just
support it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we need to be able to support it, and that's what we always are looking at when we look at the energy of stuff. So anyway, thank you all for listening. Thank you for being here. You all are fantastic. We hope that you have a very safe and lovely eclipse. Please be conscious of your communication, what you're saying to people, when you're saying it to people, and be safe as possible. Drink a lot of water, stay healthy out there. And we hope that you do trust this energy and that you
go make some magic. You do trust this energy.
I'm not going to use it at this time.